Quite funny, really, isn't it? Danny Welbeck and Jordan Henderson on the same day. All we have to do is find out what Jesse Lingard's up to and we could reunite the entire England 2018 World Cup squad. I think it's a very interesting one, right? And I think a lot of people are going to be fairly sneery, fairly snide about this. But for me, it makes sense. I know you're not expecting me to say that, but it actually makes sense. We need a culture. We need standards. The standards at Chelsea are just through the floor. The standards don't exist. We have such a recalcitrant squad. We have such a group of unruly players. And suddenly you bring in standards. Standards should come from the club, right? Standards should be set in the walls. It should be there. The way that Arsenal will always talk about those marble halls. The way that Manchester United will talk about the standard that's set by the Holy Trinity. The way that Liverpool fans will talk about the standards that are there because of the "This is Anfield" sign. And those things are true. Chelsea once had standards, but those standards were eviscerated. Those standards were eroded when this new ownership came in and they did everything they could to get rid of what existed before. They cast it all onto the ash heap of history. They bulldozed the culture. They bulldozed the standards. So the standards need to be reset. And now, crucially, it looks like they have realised that. So how do you reset standards? You do it over time. It isn't easy, but the easiest way to do it immediately is to bring in those standard bearers. So what do Danny Welbeck and Jordan Henderson represent? They represent standards.
The biggest surprise, the most unexpected news of the day so far till early afternoon is regarding Chelsea. Because out of nowhere, Chelsea have started talks with Brighton and with the agents of Danny Welbeck. Yes, that Danny Welbeck, former Manchester United striker, who is doing very well in Premier League, despite his age, been doing very, very well for Brighton. 35 years old, so obviously an experienced option. But Chelsea want to include that kind of player. According to my information, Xabi Alonso is discussing internally with Chelsea owners and directors about this possibility to include an experienced striker as a backup option, and Danny Welbeck is seen as the ideal candidate for this opportunity. So Chelsea keen on Danny Welbeck. It's a serious possibility. The understanding is that the player is keen on the move, so Danny Welbeck is aware of Xabi Alonso mentioning his name as a possibility, and Danny Welbeck would like to go to Chelsea. So it's a serious chance, a serious possibility to see Danny Welbeck as new Chelsea striker in this summer transfer window, with some consequences, because there are some players that Chelsea no longer consider untouchable. For example, for Liam Delap, if there is a good proposal, Chelsea could be open to let him go. The player still wants to fight for his place at Chelsea, but Chelsea would open doors to an exit in this summer transfer window. Emmanuel Emega joined Chelsea this summer, but also for him there is a possibility to go in case of a good proposal. So there might be movement around these two strikers in the next weeks, and Chelsea see Danny Welbeck as a concrete, serious possibility up front for them. More to mention about Chelsea and also about this situation is forget about João Pedro once again.
This deal slightly annoys me. Danny Welbeck to Chelsea. David Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano dropping the news this afternoon that Chelsea have now opened talks or are looking at potentially signing Danny Welbeck from Brighton. The veteran striker, Xabi Alonso, is keen on the leadership and experience factor, bringing that in. It's such a sensible move for Chelsea to do right now. They're full of young players. They're lacking that leadership type of quality, that experience as well up front for them is just not there, and not there in them clinical stages. Danny Welbeck is the perfect player for Chelsea right now, and it pains me to say this because I would have liked Manchester United to go and sign Danny Welbeck. It was all set up for Manchester United. Some people will say that we're sleeping on this and we're not moving quick enough to try and get these deals done because we're concentrating on other areas, and it'll be another critique of the Manchester United ownership. But when you look at this just overall as an absolute, as a transfer itself, this is a very, very clever piece of business if Chelsea can get this done. This is Xabi Alonso, who absolutely understands the side of the game where you need that experience, the quality in players who have that leadership quality. He was trying to sign Granit Xhaka, of all people, and take him from Sunderland to Chelsea. Having only been at Sunderland for 1 year, having sold him to Sunderland from his previous time at Bayer Leverkusen. This is a sensible manager who's looking looking at what Chelsea need here. And look, all of the noise is going on and everything that's happening around this transfer window, it has been crazy. And no one's really stood out and made a clear and obvious move apart from Spurs probably so far. Lots of teams losing players, lots of teams bringing other players in. Chelsea, I think, are probably they're probably over par at the moment in what they've done. Yes, Morgan Rogers is a good signing, very, very good signing. But they've lost the best left back from the World Cup in Cucurella. And obviously they've lost a good central midfielder in Santos. So depth has gone and reliability in depth has gone there because you can't really rely on Lavia. Of course, Enzo and Caicedo are two of the best in the business, I know. And so realistically, Chelsea are still lacking in there in defence, I think. But up front, they've always had the problem. Like Pedro has done good, João Pedro that is, and he has obviously held his own. But obviously, you're looking at Liam Delap, you're looking at other strikers coming in there. They just don't have that depth. And Danny Welbeck as a second option. Let's not forget, Danny Welbeck as a second option. The last 2 seasons, Danny Welbeck has scored 23 Premier League goals. Combined, that is 10 and 13 last season in the Premier League. He's obviously scored more when you look in other competitions, but this is a versatile player as well. If you need him to, can play out wide. At this age, 35, obviously, you'd expect him to play up front. That's probably the best position for Danny Welbeck, to be fair. And I think he'll even say that. And as a second striker, that's actually really, really good business, that. And that scares me a little bit because that's Chelsea operating in a sensible way. You've got 2 proven quality players who shone last season being brought in the attacking third there for Chelsea. Look, I'm not saying that Chelsea are going to be world beaters. I still think there are inconsistencies and an unbalance about that team. But getting the front end of the top end of the pitch, done and sorted for them is definitely going to benefit them. With a little bit of time left, they can then start to look at the defence. Obviously, you're looking at Giovanni Quenda coming back in at the left, who they've already bought. And that was 2 seasons ago, clearly, from Sporting to replace Cucurella. So there's one player coming in as another leaves. That's giving them a chance to obviously then go and spend money on Morgan Rogers. Obviously, Santos has gone. You've got Morgan Rogers in there. You're now obviously bringing in Danny Welbeck potentially up there. You've already got Cole Palmer also there. You've got quality there. Quality, experienced Premier League players now. And that does actually, it does worry me a little bit because let's not forget Chelsea haven't got European football. They've got nothing else to concentrate on apart from domestic football. So a squad like that can be dangerous within the Premier League. And no double game weeks for them might do what happened with Man United last season, where we took advantage of that and then finished comfortably in 3rd position. So this is going to have an effect, definitely, on the Premier League, I think. Transfers like this are very, very shrewd, I think, and very sensible. Danny Welbeck, as a number 2 striker, is a weapon for any club. I just thought Man United would have come around and taken this. And do you know what? It might... And it'll show where Manchester United's minds are actually at. Because we're talking about, obviously, Joshua Zirkzee moving on and someone else coming in. Be interesting to see what Brighton actually do. But this is falling into Brighton's lap again now. Because if United do move, then they're just going to start bumping that price up again for Danny Welbeck. And you're going to end up selling a 35-year-old for big money again. And Brighton are going to look like absolute world beaters in the transfer market yet again because they've got great value for a player. They just know how to look after players and nurture them through. And I know nurturing seems like the wrong word to use for Welbeck here, but at this time of his career, for them to be able to get money for this deal is absolutely outstanding in terms of transfer business for them. Brilliant move for Chelsea, by the way. And like I've just explained, great for Brighton again. They can now go out and find somebody else, obviously. And look, you may say that, look, that's Brighton again. They're eventually going to run out of players. They're in Europe themselves, and they need to obviously build a bigger squad. It's going to be a difficult season for them. And they could find Chelsea leapfrogging them now this season because Brighton will find it tough with European football. Chelsea without it, it's a different story altogether. So when you look at this, it works well for Chelsea, not so much for Brighton unless you're looking at it from the financial side of things.
Around Barcelona, I wanted to clarify something. Now, obviously, for Julian Alvarez, the situation for Barca is becoming difficult. Barcelona are aware of that. Atletico Madrid are not opening the doors to the exit of Julian, so Barca are still giving some time to Julian Alvarez, to his camp, to make something happen. But at this stage, Atletico Madrid insist that they will not sell Julian Alvarez to Barcelona, and so Barcelona have started considering alternative options. I know in Barcelona there have been reports of Barcelona maybe not signing any striker. I respect those reports because are coming from very good colleagues, good journalists, but according to my information, Barcelona are also exploring some alternative option. João Pedro is impossible. João Pedro is staying at Chelsea and is a crucial player for Chelsea. One name to watch in the next weeks of transfer window is Junior Krupi, the striker from Bournemouth. Because according to my information, Barcelona opened talks with people close to Krupi and spoke also to Bournemouth about Krupi as a possibility up front. So Barcelona took some information and made some calls to understand the situation. He's a player they appreciate. So for sure the name of Krupi is a name to keep under consideration for Barca. The problem is that this deal is also very complicated because Bournemouth don't want to sell the player this summer. Bournemouth insists on keeping Krupi at the club this summer, and so it's not easy for Barcelona, and for example, also Manchester City have been showing an interest in the boy. Manchester City are another club keen and attentive on the situation of Krupi, but at the moment the problem is the same. Whether you are Barcelona or you are Manchester City, Bournemouth want to keep the player at the club. So it's not an easy deal, but Barcelona started some conversation, and this is showing that Barcelona are also exploring alternative options to Julian Alvarez in case they can't get the deal done for the Argentinian striker. So conversations are happening around the name of Eli Junior Krupi, who is very talented, was breaking some records in Premier League in terms of under strikers, doing very well, and so for sure an interesting situation to go and follow in the next weeks. Then guys, important to mention something also regarding the future of Bradley Barcola. I told you guys this story, it's been here on my videos for a long time, in April, in May, in June, in July, and it remains a daily topic because Liverpool are working on this deal for Barcola. But let me clarify one thing, don't expect a breakthrough in hours. So today is not the Barcola day. It's gonna take time to have negotiations and discussions. What I can confirm and explain today is that the player, Bradley Barcola, is very open and keen on Liverpool move. Barcola is attracted by the project, Barcola is attracted by the club, Barcola believes that Liverpool could be the perfect option for his future. But Barcola can't control anything on the club-to-club negotiation. And obviously, Paris Saint-Germain, after losing Yan Diomande, even financially, to let Bradley Barcola go, would ask for important money. I don't think it's going to be 170 million euros. I think it's going to be less than this, the final price of Barcola, but still an important amount of money, a big amount of money. So not an easy deal in terms of financials. But Liverpool are there. Liverpool are in contact. So let's wait and see what happens. I'm just saying that the fact that in the last 24 hours the news has finally reached international media doesn't mean that the deal is happening in 24 hours. So it might take some time to have conversations, to have negotiations, but Brad Barcola is a top target for Liverpool, that's not in doubt, and you know, I always told you, keep an eye on Barcola, because Liverpool absolutely consider him as a crucial summer target, and so they want absolutely to try in the next days and weeks. So conversations to follow. Then guys, keep an eye also on one more situation, apart from another exclusive story of the day, exclusive story on Ajax, because they reached an agreement with Wolves for Tolu Arokodare as new striker, loan deal with a buy option clause, total package 22 million euros. They also receive a loan fee and they will cover the salary from Ajax for Tolu Arokodare. So after Marcos Leonardo, also Tolu is joining Ajax, but also something to say on Zion Suzuki, the Japanese goalkeeper who did very well at the World Cup, Parma goalkeeper, he's playing in Italy. Paris Saint-Germain are interested in Suzuki, but the idea, from what I understand, at Paris Saint-Germain is to try sign the player now and eventually find a solution on loan. If they can't find a new club for Lucas Chevalier, they would consider a loan move for Zion Suzuki. At the same time, there is Juventus interested. Juventus' top target remains Dibu Martinez from Aston Villa, but if they can't get the deal done for Dibu Martinez, Juventus are on Zion Suzuki. Juventus made contact with Parma. Juventus already sent a proposal to Parma for Zion Suzuki, but there is no club-to-club agreement because at the moment the fee is still not what Parma want. So on one side there is Juventus offering a starting goalkeeper spot. On the other side, there is Paris Saint-Germain offering the possibility to be a PSG player eventually in the future, join PSG and stay on loan or go on loan. So now it's also on the player to decide and financially to reach an agreement with Parma. So it's a very interesting situation to follow. The one of Dion Suzuki, one of the most talented goalkeepers around. Parma are expected to resolve the situation as soon as possible, but definitely one to watch in the upcoming days and weeks. Then, just quickly, deal closed also in Italy, an important one. Roma signed Santiago Castro, the Argentinian striker from Bologna. Artem Dovbyk, former La Liga top scorer, is going to Bologna on loan from Roma. So, several movements, guys, as every single day here on the channel. You can find absolutely everything. Remember to like this video, to turn on the notification bell, to subscribe to the channel to have all the information every single day. And then, guys, your opinion. Welbeck Chelsea, yes or no? How do you feel about Barcola? Krupi, how do you see this option eventually for Barcelona? And also all the rest from Suzuki to Dela, Pemega? Well, your opinion here. I will see you soon. Ciao.